In today's video, we're going to show you how to start to create your shop drawings after you've created your cabinets within CabWriter. And this will be using the layout program that comes with SketchUp Pro. So we're going to show you how to export the appropriate information over to layout and set all that up so that you can create your shop drawings. So the first thing you do after you finish drawing your cabinets is we have to create a number of scenes, and scenes are a standard SketchUp concept that essentially creates different viewpoints on your drawing, which they call scenes. So we have one already created up here. It's called Cut List. If I hit that, it shows me just this, the way I set this up for my cut list. So it might be a good video to watch prior to this if you want to make sure your cut list is all set up and your cabinets are numbered properly before you do your shop drawings. So I created this scene so that I could select everything here and just export to my cut list. If I want a new scene, I go to my scenes menu, and that is up in on the Mac. It's under Windows, Scenes, and so if I click that again, it turns it off. If I click it again, it turns it on. So to create a new scene, I simply hit the plus button, and unfortunately, for some reason on the Mac, it turns all of my layers, or most of my layers, off, all of them in this case. But I do have a new scene called Scene 2, and I can change that. We're going to call it Perspective Sink Wall. And I'm going to turn all of my layers back on that I want. So basically, a scene is nothing more than it saving all of the layers and other things like the camera view and whether my guides are on and off, and so on. And it's saving it in a scene. So once I'm done here, I need to refresh the scene and update it. I can also do that by going up here and right-clicking and update. And so now, if I didn't update it and I moved off of the scene, it wouldn't have remembered all those things I changed. But now you can see with Cut List, I'm here. With Perspective, my walls and my floor are back on. If I had appliances and so on, I'd probably turn them on as well. And let's say I want another scene like this. And so I'm going to create a new scene. Of course, it turns off a lot of my layers. I'm going to turn those back on. Go back over here. Oops. I'm going to call this Perspective Range Wall. My range will eventually be over there. Remember to update that. And now if I go here, I see this. If I go here, I see this. So you'll see that can be handy in our layout drawings as well. But what we are going to want a few of is elevations and sections. So let's create a section first. And we're simply going to use SketchUp's section plane tool down here. And when I click on that, I get this plane that flips around depending on what I'm touching. And I want to take a plan view section of the lowers, so I want to be in this orientation. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. When it gets in this orientation, I can hit the Shift key, which I'm holding that down right now. And as long as I hold it down, it's going to lock it in this orientation. Now I'm going to take my section right here. And what SketchUp has done, since it's a 3D model, it knows what a section of your model looks like. But interestingly, if I zoom in, what's kind of fascinating about SketchUp models is what looks solid really isn't. It's really hollow. It's just a series of planes forming what looks like a solid object, which means when I take a section, I can see into there, and so it's hollow, and I can see where my holes go through and so on. Those are things I don't really want to see in my section. If I went to Camera, Standard Views, Top, you'll notice it also doesn't quite look like a top view. That's because under Camera I've also got Perspective View on, which is great for looking at perspectives, but not so much for looking at sections, because I don't really want to see it in a perspective fashion. I want to see it as parallel projection. But notice if I zoom in, I'm seeing all that stuff inside. Don't really want to see that. So what we've done is CabWriter has a tool that will create a scene for you and turn it into a section, and also create a mask to go over the tops of all the parts that are cut through so you don't see inside. I'll show you what I mean when we get there. So what I did, it's orange when it's not selected, it's blue when it's selected. So I'm going to select that plane and I'm going to go up to Draw, CabWriter, Create Section from Section Plane. It's going to ask me the name. I'm going to call it Plan View Lowers. You're going to get this error message that says there's a style missing. A style is nothing more than indicating certain things that are on and off in SketchUp's display to you of a scene. And we're right in the middle of implementing this. You won't get this error message in the future. We're going to automatically create a scene style for you that's appropriate for a SketchUp scene. You can learn about styles in SketchUp books and videos. Our own Jose has both books and videos that explains this concept. But for now, we're going to skip over this because this will, if you're using a future version, you won't see this error message. But what we did was we created a section here. And notice now there's this mask. There's a new layer that was created for you called Z Plan View Lowers over here. If I turn it off, I see everything that's inside. If I turn it back on, we've created a mask that goes right on top of everything, so you can see, not have to see that, and it looks more like a real section that we would expect. What we're seeing here popping out is the ladder bases. So I might want to turn those off because maybe I want those in a separate scene. And anything that I do to change the scene, even if I'm zooming in and out and positioning stuff, I have to remember to update the scene. So right click on the name and say update. Now I've got a scene that unfortunately left my plane on here, so I want to turn that off. I don't really want to see my section planes. That's toggle section display. Now I can update this one as well. This one, it didn't turn it back on, so I don't have to worry about it. So I've got multiple scenes now. One happens to be a section, which is cool. So I could do that. I could do that for my uppers as well. I could have a plan view. Maybe I want a section through this entire wall here. So I want a section oriented this way, so I'm hitting the Shift key and holding that. I'm going to go up here somewhere and create a section. So this gives me a section of this entire wall. What's beautiful about the 3D modeling concept and drawing concept is we're drawing it part by part, so it knows exactly how it's built, which means we can use these built-in sectioning tools in SketchUp to quickly do sections. So once your model is drawn, you can immediately export a cut list, immediately start creating these sections and elevations, and pretty quickly come up with a set of shop drawings. So same thing. We don't want to see all the hollow in there, so I'm going to select this section plane, draw, CabWriter, create section from section plane. We're going to call this section sink wall. Again, the style's missing, but we're going to ignore that. So we have a section for our sink wall here. You can see I can move it around, but it will always get me back. Right, so we've got a couple sections. We've got a plan view section. One thing we might want here is an elevation. So what if I want an elevation of this wall? So one easy way to do it is take the sectioning tool, oddly enough, and I want it facing this direction, so I'm going to hit the Shift key to hold it. I'm going to go back out here somewhere. I'm going to create my section. And I can move my section. So if I select it and hit the M key or the move icon over here, I can move it back and forth. And you see as I get here, all of a sudden I'm into a section of the refrigerator cabinet. Here I'm into a section. So I could turn this into a section. If I pull it back here, what's interesting is I'm getting an elevation of this wall. And I also get a sectional freebie over here, which I kind of like, because it alleviates me from having to create an extra section. So I get it kind of for free here. So I can go back to draw CabWriter, create section from section plane. We're going to call this elevation range wall. Again, we're missing this, don't worry about it. I'm going to just update this to make sure that it's good. But notice it's mostly an elevation, but a little freebie of a section over here, which I like. So here it turned our section planes back on, so I'm going to update that. I'm going to double check all of my different scenes and make sure they're the way I like them. So that's great. So I could keep doing this till I've got all the sections and elevations that I want for my shop drawings. Once we've done this, we go to our layout program. And when we first open it, it's going to ask us to create a new file. And I've got some templates, a template set up that I like already that I'm going to choose. And you can just, this is all standard layout stuff, so it allows you to create your own title block and so on. And this template was saved pointing to a different file. You can see this was another file I had with a different kitchen in it. And the way this works is you link to a file that you're interested in. So under File, Document Setup, you can choose. So this is what it's currently linked to, this other kitchen design. So I'm going to say relink. Or if this was the very first time you ever opened it up, you would just link to one. And I'm going to go find my file. And it's down here under the demos, and it's this one right here. So what these blue rectangles are called viewports. So each viewport can be pointed to a scene back in our original Sketchup file. So what we've done is link our Sketchup file to a layout file. And what's cool is I can mix 3D views or scenes and 2D views or scenes in my shop drawings. So I've got 3 little scenes set up here. And let's say I'm just going to delete these 2. And I'm going to select this one. So I just put my mouse over it somewhere in here and select it. And if you go over here to Sketchup Model, you choose the scene that you want to show. So I could do the perspective sink wall. And one thing I just noticed is, notice a couple of our elevations and sections aren't showing up here. That's because I didn't save all those changes in my Sketchup file. So I'm going to go back to my Sketchup file and say save. And when I go back to my layout file, notice if I choose this, it's still not here. what I need to do is go back to File, Document Setup, and it's telling me that my file is old. So what I need to do is update it. And if I go over here, you see my new section and elevation are there. But look what we got over here. We've got a perspective view. If I wanted another one, I could go here and I could say Edit, Copy, and move over here. But what I'm really copying here, this blue rectangle, is my viewport. It's a view onto a scene. And I copied that, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do Edit, Paste. And if I move around till I get this icon here and move it, you'll see this is a copy of it. And I can put it down here. Notice it's pointing to the same view. Well, this one's selected. I can go over here now and I can say Perspective Range Wall. And now I get that perspective. And I can even scale it. So the scale is under sorry, scale's right here. So if I double click on it, so great way to mix in some 3D. So what I usually do is on my cover page is I put a bunch of 3D views so that people can see what the kitchen's going to look like, which is helpful when you're building it. Then we've got different pages. Here's the pages window. And I've got one page that's already in here with a big giant viewport called Plan View Lowers, which just happens to be the same as my previous kitchen, and I've got one of these in my new kitchen. So I select this viewport, and I go here and I choose Plan View Lowers. And the scale that it's pulled this in at, if I go back down here, it's a top view, it knows that. Scale is 1 to 10.1.562. That's not really a handy scale for me. So I might choose something that's more standard. That might be just about workable for this view. It captures everything, including my fridge cabinet over here. So I'll stick with that. 1.5 inches equals 1 foot, or 1 to 8. And we want to preserve the scale if we resize the viewport like this. If you don't have that checked, every time you resize the viewport, it'll rescale your drawing. Layout has all kinds of standard symbols that you can put in here. You'll want to find some sort of a training book on layout and dive a little deeper into this. I'm not going to cover everything, at least in this video. I might in a future video. But for now, I just want to show you how to get these views in here, and then there's lots of documentation out there on how to use layout once you've got it in here, because you can do things now like dimension. I can apply hatches to parts. I can put titles. I can have my title block filled in, and so on and so forth. So now I can start doing standard things like dimensioning, hatching, and putting all my symbols in that I need. So I have these different pages. If I want one more page, I can go over here, choose this page, right-click on it, and duplicate it. And then I can double click on it and rename it, and we'll call this section sink wall. Now I go over here and I select my viewport, and I'm going to go over to my Sketchup model and I'm going to choose section sink wall. And I don't want that dimension. That got copied from the previous page. Notice we also have layers here. And my model layer has been selected. I've got a title block layer and a dimensions layer. So I really should, when I'm starting to do dimensioning, I should switch over to my dimensions layer and do all my dimensioning there. And I want all this on the model layer. So if I choose dimension layer and create a dimension here, then if I were to turn off with this little eyeball here, turn off the dimensions layer, I wouldn't see a dimension. If I turned off the models layer, I would turn that off, and if I turned off the title block layer, I would turn that off. Now, there's one subtlety here. I don't know if this dimension is actually correct. My scale for my SketchUp model here is 1.5 to 1.5 inches equals 1 foot. But my dimension, there's a dimension style here. You have a dimension scale. And you can have it auto scale. Notice it just changed to 33.5. Auto scale means it chooses the same scale as we had for the viewport, which is 1.5 equals 1 foot. So that's a correct dimension now. 33.5 is the correct dimension. If you don't use auto scale, when I choose this dimension, if I turn off auto scale, I got to make sure that I choose the same dimension scale as I have for my original scale. Otherwise my dimensions are going to be incorrect. So it's worth spot checking some of your dimensions just to double check that everything came out okay. There's obviously much more in layout, and we might cover this more in depth in a future video. But for now, that's how you get your sections, elevations, and various scenes from SketchUp into layout. And if you want to dive further into layout, there's plenty of documentation out in the world on how to use it. So you can always write us and ask us if you have any specific questions as well. But we hope you enjoyed this and have some fun creating your shop drawings.